All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's NBA pre-lock show where we are going to walk through these games, show you what we're doing on this slate. And I think it's a good one, right, Brandon? It's a nice four-gamer, not too crazy.
Yep, I definitely like this one for sure.
Agreed. Cujo, Evening Man, Steven, blessing and prosperity to all of DFS Army. We still have one more slate before the end of the year tomorrow. So no Happy New Year's yet. We're almost there. Cedric, good to see you, man. We'll touch on last night briefly. It was hellacious. I haven't had a slate that bad in a long time. So for me, when that happens, is one of those delete the tape, don't need to rewind, just move on and keep going. Can't really prepare for injuries and shit like that. What's up, Drew Shady? Good to see you. So
Yeah,
let's jump
Gay getting only 10 minutes was not expected either. Which for 10 minutes he put up 14 points. It's not like he did bad. He just didn't get run.
Yeah.
Canard.
It was one of those, just wasn't in the cards for me. But today we have a nice four-gamer. Slate doesn't lock until 8, if you all didn't know. So we have plenty of time, no need to rush. So as questions come up, we will try to get to them. So let's jump into this first game. We have the Sixers going up against the Memphis Grizzlies. Second highest total on the slate at 234.5. Closest spread on the slate with 1 point. If you look around the industry, a lot of people will talk about just the wide gaps between these games, which gives you a lot of opportunity to late swap. For me, I think there's definitely an opportunity cost here. Like, the more exposure you have to this game, it's true, the less opportunity you'll have to late swap. But I think that's why you're seeing a little bit lower ownership on a couple of these guys. From the Philadelphia side, Joel Embiid is questionable. That's a big deal. Drummond would start if he's out. And then, of course, guys like Maxey, George, Paul George, VJ Edgecombe would all see a boost in usage as well. Looks like you're not really forcing exposure to these guys. What's your thought process here?
Yeah, disclaimer. I'm sharing my screen if you guys didn't know. I'm also doing 20 max tonight too. So not forcing in as many as I would on a 150. This team, I'm just kind of letting the DS dictate what I get. A lot kind of relies on whether Embiid is in or not, because of course, if he's out, that changes things quite a bit. Maxey was pretty much the only one that I may play, even if Embiid is in. Only reason why I didn't pull the trigger yet is just because I love the matchup, which is kind of making me lean towards playing him, but he needs about 60 fantasy points to at least make value. And we haven't seen a 60-point performance from him in quite a while now. So that's kind of what has me going back and forth. But I do love this spot for him. And great pivot off the hard and chalk as well if you're looking to get different. Not saying I recommend it, but if there's some chalk you're trying to avoid, Maxey is definitely that option at 8% ownership. And then let's see what else I'm getting. 5% Embiid if he does play. I'm not going to try to match the field or go over on him. I honestly would be fine if this 5% wasn't here. He hasn't been bad overall since coming back, but he also hasn't been doing well enough to where I feel good about playing him. Maybe if he was a bit cheaper, but I'm kind of focusing more on some cheaper centers tonight. So not really looking I'm not really too excited about going there. And then definitely no strong feelings about Paul George or VJ. If I was doing 150, I would probably put him in to match the field there. And then, of course, Drummond's only in play for me if Embiid is out.
Yeah, we did just find out that Joel Embiid is going to be a game time decision. So
of course,
fun. But at least this is the first game on the slate. So we'll get that news by lock. For me, I'm playing 150 tonight, so I am going to take shots here. Tyrese Maxey's going to be a leverage play for me tonight, definitely just because of the matchup, and it's the closest spread on the slate, so this game should stay close. And so this is just a spot I want exposure to if no one else is going to play him at 8% ownership. So I really like the ownership. I like the matchup. Price tag is okay. It's a little high. We're paying a premium for him. But again, he's an even better play if Joel Embiid gets ruled out. So no matter what, I'll have that 20% min on him, but I'll feel even better about it if Joel Embiid doesn't play. And then for me, when I see a Q tag and a game time decision, I should want to stay away from that situation. I think that's the usual trade of thought. But in a soft matchup, I'm willing to attack it. So I have a 20% min on Joel Embiid. I haven't looked around the industry to kind of see where they have his ownership, but I do think his ownership will continue to fall just with us not having a lot of clarity on this situation yet. And just kind of with what you said, he hasn't been great. His minutes have stabilized a bit, but he hasn't had any like super explosive games. He is relatively cheap at 8,300. So I like his odds of having a stronger game in a really soft matchup against Memphis. And so I have a 20% min there. We don't have any centers on this slate that have a ton of consistency first, but also like just very consistent players. And so for me, I am really just betting on upside. This slate is really what I'm focusing on. So I have a 20% min on him, really just kind of betting on some of that upside. If he doesn't get there, 20% Embiid shouldn't kill me on this slate. Like it won't be like, he's the reason I didn't do well. Outside of that, I can't get to PG or VJ with these guys healthy. The rest of these guys are pretty much a wash for me, assuming Embiid plays. If he sits, then I'll have some PG. I'll force in some Edgecombe, but I still wouldn't feel super excited about it. All right. Next up, we have the other side of this game. We have the Memphis Grizzlies. And Memphis, I feel like they might be cursed or something because like every year they have the longest injury report just consistently, slate after slate, year after year. We have KCP out for these guys. Jock Landale, we found out
likely to play.
Yeah, he's likely to play. And then Vince Williams is out. And then a ton of the guys who've been out for this team for a while. Nothing really changed how I'm kind of viewing this slate, but how are you looking at the Grizzlies tonight?
Yeah, I only forced in a couple guys. I can't believe we finally got to this point, but I did put a 10% min on Jaren Jackson Jr. Yeah. He has had now 3 games in a row where he's put up a solid performance, especially his last one. So knock on wood. Hopefully he can keep his hands to himself and continue that. 7,700 is just a great price for what he can do. And kind of like you said, I know you can play him at power forward too, but he is center eligible too. And center's just really not that strong tonight. And then I was going back and forth on him, but we've seen great upside from Aldama. I just put a 10% min there. And another thing too is if Embiid is out, both of those guys I would like even more just because that matchup gets even softer than before. So I might raise my exposure to both those guys if that does happen. But those are pretty much the only 2 I was comfortable doing. I do have 5% Ja showing up, and that's some more ownership I'm avoiding tonight, especially since I'm doing 20 max. He's another guy. Kind of reminds me like Embiid. He's playing under 30 minutes, and we have yet to see like a really like great ceiling game from him since he came back. So not really excited about him either. And then everybody else on this team, especially with Ja back in the picture, they're still priced up too much for me to want to go there. I will mention GG Jackson too. I think he's one of the better value plays on the slate. He sees around 20 minutes and can get you around 20 points. And for whatever reason, if this game does get ugly, he's likely to see blowout runs. So he's a potential value play of the slate. But yeah, everybody else on the bench, they're a little too priced up for me.
JG Wasabi, man. Greg Wells said Cam Spencer. Did you give Cam any thought?
If Ja was out, he would probably be a core play for me tonight. But with Ja in the mix, I just can't do it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I didn't get there either. With Memphis, I'm trying to find reasons to play these guys just because it seems like they're not getting a lot of ownership. The one kind of surprising play here is Ja. He's seeing a lot of ownership on this slate at 20%. He's someone I would love at low ownership, but at 20% ownership, and he doesn't have the Q tag like Embiid, so there's no reason for me to think he won't actually have that ownership.
Yeah.
I am just like, I get it. This is a solid spot and matchup, but I can't do that. So he's not showing up at all for me in my lineups right now. But just to kind of balance that out, Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to be a leverage play for me tonight. I have a 20% min on him. I like being double the field. He's been good. I've been playing him for this month, really, and he's been more consistent and he's shown some upside. Like you said, he's an even better play if Embiid gets ruled out. Aldama, he's one of those guys I really just usually trust the DS on. Like if he shows up, he shows up for me. But you're right, the upside is there, and I'm so close to putting that 10% min on him, but I have so many mins on players already. I'm trying to not have too many others, but he is showing up in one lineup right now. So we'll see if that changes, but that's where I'm at this point. And then like you, GG Jackson, he's showing up a lot for me. I didn't do anything to him in the DS, but he's showing up in about 45% of my lineups. And that is because I capped some other value plays that were showing up. He's just someone that I felt a little bit more comfortable with. But as you'll see as we go throughout the slate, the value on this slate isn't the most consistent, which is pretty normal, really, at this point. All right, next up we have the game on the slate. Is that crazy to say? We have the Celtics going up against the Jazz. Highest total at 242.5. Second widest spread on the slate, though, at 8.5 points. We've been saying it all year. Guys go off against Utah. That's just the way it is, and that's the way it should continue to be. For Boston tonight, no real injury news worth mentioning here. These guys are showing up by themselves for you, right?
Oh, yeah, this is by far the team of the night, like you just said, and we continue to say it. Playing against Utah is just a DFS cheat code. Like, just do it. And if they can somehow magically keep it close, then the game total with them is just insane. It blows my mind every time. But yeah, I literally had to do nothing here. So of course, pretty much these top four guys here are my main priority. So I'll just kind of go through my exposures of what I have so far. So 90% Pritchard, 55% White, 55% Kada, and 40% Brown. And as I continue to run, it might change a little bit, but as you can see, all four of those guys will at least be 40% or higher as I continue to do my runs. As for the cheap guys, so far I have 5% Simons and 5% Walsh. If I was doing 150, I would probably match the field from here, Simons all the way down to Garza. Maybe not Garza. He's kind of more so on the fence, but I feel like between all of these turds in this range, they just kind of rotate between each other on who goes off. Literally throwing darts on trying to guess which one it will be. But again, this is against Utah, so I'm willing to bet money that one of these cheaper guys are going to end up in the nuts tonight. So definitely want some kind of exposure. Definitely going to make sure I at least have some of the Simons and Walsh. Are probably my favorite too. Hugo, he's very frustrating because his minutes are all over the place. One game he'll get a ton, next he'll get like under 10 minutes, but we've definitely seen some nice potential from here. And then Hauser, we've seen him smash too. He's a little more shot dependent, but definitely if he's hitting his shots, I can definitely see them riding the hot hand and sticking with him. So yeah, I think all of these cheaper plays are for sure viable tonight, especially these lower owned ones. I think they can be sneaky for sure.
How much Kata are you getting?
55.
Okay, good. That gives me a little peace of mind. Because I have, well, not as much, 35%, but he has been moving up and down for pretty much every run I do. Like you said, this is a game and team I want a lot of exposure to. I have a 45% min on Jaylen Brown, really just to kind of make sure he was showing up a bit more than Kawhi Leonard, who I like. Kawhi Leonard's fine. He's just the chalkiest player, stud on the slate, and the smaller the slate gets, the more likely I am to just try to make sure he's not my highest owned stud. So I just kind of picked Jaylen Brown because I like the matchup a bit more, but it can obviously still burn us because there's quite a few very viable plays here. Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, those guys are both showing up for me above field weight, which I like. I didn't have to do anything with them from a min per standpoint. And then we touched on Kada over the field there. And I'm with you here. With me 150 maxing, I have to take a shot on some of these low-owned cheapies from Boston in a really soft matchup who will still see run even in a blowout. This game does get kind of gross. None of them are safe plays, but there's some guys I like slightly more than others. Guys like Anthony Simons, he's someone I've been on all year. He's been very hit or miss, though, this year. And unlike guys like Walsh and Hugo and Hauser and even Minot, those guys have had consistent or relatively consistent seasons where they're the guy. Simons is just whenever it happens, it happens. It's just kind of spread and it's pretty random. But in these soft matchups, with him being pretty scoring dependent, I'm more likely to play him. So I have a 25% min on him just to make sure I'm over the field there. I have an 8% min on Hugo. I don't really ever play Hugo Gonzalez, but here we are. 4 games slate against the Jazz. Welcome to the team, man. And then Luke Garza, I have a 5% min on. Just a decent value center play, an option on this slate. I'm not playing Jordan Walsh. I don't have a min on him. If he's the Celtic that goes off tonight, that sucks for me. But just with his inconsistency and him being the second highest pay down, second highest ownership pay down option here, I'm just not going to do it when I haven't seen it from him relatively recently. And then Sam Hauser, I have a 7% min on. So don't love these guys, but it just feels like you kind of have to have some exposure here.
Yep.
Let's see. James, we'll touch on highest owned players at each position towards the end. Greenwich Bautista said, who's a better play, Kada or Lopez at the same price on FanDuel? Do you have a lean like 1-for-1, Kada or Lopez?
That is such a tough question because Kada is definitely in a better game environment, I would say. And again, we just expressed how much we love playing guys against Utah. So love him for that reason. But on the other hand, with Lopez, he's been playing over 30 minutes. And that kind of course, minutes equals more safety. Not all the time, but just in theory, it does. But just due to the game environment, I have a slight lean to Kada. I have more exposure there, but I do love Lopez quite a bit tonight as well, just with how he's been playing.
Yeah, it is a difficult 1-for-1 question.
It's almost a coin flip.
I agree with you. Let's see. Other side of this game is where I think we just don't really know what to do yet because Keontae George is questionable. He has a Q tag. He's going through an illness, and things will dramatically change, at least for me, if he ends up getting ruled out. So that's one we have to keep a close eye out for. That's one situation where late swapping could really be valuable if we don't get that news pre-lock. And then we did find out Ace Bailey is out. Kevin Love is out. Help some of these guys a little bit, but it's really the Keontae George show for me. What's your approach here if the Jazz going up against the Celtics?
Start with Sensabaugh first. Is this ownership gross? Yes. Is he the most trustworthy player on the slate? No. So definitely get it if you don't like it. But just to kind of go back to what I just said, minutes is key for me. Ace Bailey is still out, and he is seeing over 30 minutes. So on a 4-gamer, I'm not going to think too much about it, especially since you can play him at small forward and shooting guard. He just makes lines work tonight. So definitely value play of the night. Nurkic, I didn't do anything with, but he's been in solid form. I'm at 10% now, so that'll probably be some more chalk under on. Don't like this spot for him too much, even though he's been playing really well. I just rather go with the cheaper options, like the two we just talked about, Kada and Lopez. Collier, I didn't have to do anything to. He's another solid value play. Been playing pretty consistently lately, so I'd be right around 20%. Marketing, I did have to force him in on. Again, I just love this game environment a lot. And then we know the upside that marketing has as well. I think 7,900 is too cheap for what he can do. And of course, he becomes even better if Keontae is out. And then I say it every slate we get to, but pretty much if Keontae's on the slate, I'm playing him. He's putting up all-star numbers right now. One of the best offensive point guards in the league right now. So his upside is crazy. He should be a 9K player at this point, I think. 8,100 in a good spot, definitely going there. So I'm actually probably going to bump that up to 15%.
Yeah.
And of course, if he gets rolled out, then we'll adjust. But for now, he'll be in my lines. And then I did put a 15% min on Clayton Jr. His minutes can be all over the place sometimes too, but it is a good sign. I know last game it kind of got out of hand, but he got an extra run towards the end of the game and looked really good. So just hoping he can continue to ride the wave there, and coach will give him some solid run tonight. And again, if Keontae's out, him and Collier are going to be two of the best, if not the best, value plays on the slate. So definitely want some exposure to Clayton as well. He's another good offensive guard that I love tonight.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I like the Jazz a little bit less than you. And it's really because I don't like to pick on the Celtics. For me, I just kind of look at things. I'm just like, I know this is the highest total on the slate. But with guys like Lauri Markkanen, I only like to play him in soft matchups or if Keontae George is out. Outside of that, you don't see me play Markkanen that much. But this is the highest total game. And so this is usually a spot I would put him in on him. But there's just other guys I like more on the slate. So I get it. I'm just not doing it. I do have a 15% min on Keontae George. That's someone I don't really give a damn what the matchup is. He's good against the Pistons. He's good against everybody. If he doesn't get there, he was probably close to getting there. Is the way it works for him right now. The Q tag makes me a little nervous, but everyone feels that way. And then Nurkic, I do have a 20% min on. I think that's just me wanting some exposure to some of these bigs, but the ownership is high. Not my favorite play by any means, but I have a 20% min on him. Now looking at Filipowski, I did cap Bryce Sensabaugh at 60%. I'm 150 maxing, so I need ways to get exposure to some of the other value on this slate. And Bryce typically lacks a bit of upside. He's fine with getting like 20 to 25 points, but he's not giving me the 30 or 35 that I usually need to take down a contest. But if Keontae George is ruled out, screw that. That max is coming right off, and all these guys are going to be in my lineups. But that's what I have for now. And even Collier isn't showing up for me that much. He's only showing up in about 4% of my lineups. Guys like Taylor Hendricks is only showing up in about 3% of my lineups. They're just guys I'm trusting the DS on. Walter Clayton is showing up in 10% of my lineups. I didn't do anything to make that happen, but at least he's showing up. But I don't feel overly passionate about a lot of these Jazz outside of Keontae George.
I will say one more thing about Clayton. Like, if you're playing like a blowout narrative and you think it gets ugly and Utah can't keep up with Boston, like, I feel like you have to play Clayton because, I mean, he showed it last game. The game got ugly. He played more minutes and completely smashed. So at 3,400 on a 4-gamer, it could be big.
Yeah. That's why I'm happy he's showing up. If he wasn't showing up, I'm like, maybe 5-10%, but he's showing up, so I'm not going to do anything too crazy. Next up, we have the Pistons going up against the Lakers. Third highest total on the slate, but one of the closer spread games at 2.5, which keeps things pretty interesting here. Detroit, no real injury news to talk about here. They're going up against the Lakers, who are a team that's just pretty average across the board from a defensive standpoint. How are you looking at Detroit, if at all?
So Ivy, of course, is the obvious play here, and up there with Sensabaugh, one of the value plays on the slate. Does concern me a bit, especially some of the other value plays we've already mentioned who are lower owned have the potential to outplay them. But I think what everybody is banking on is last game we've seen him play more minutes than he has since coming back. He got up to 29. So we have him at 27. If he does see 27, then I'm not going to be too concerned, especially no offense to the Laker fans out there. I know there's a couple going against the Lakers. I'm not too concerned. So I'm definitely going to eat that chalk there. I have some Holland too. Another value play who sees around 20 minutes. And again, not the most consistent, but he has had solid games and only 3,400. Let me see where he was at. 35%. So I'm actually getting quite a bit of him. And again, I do like the soft matchup. If I was doing 150, I would give Azar and Tobias a little more thought, but they're both just way too inconsistent for me to feel good about forcing them in my 20 max tonight. But I wouldn't talk anybody off of it, just not my favorite plays or not really a priority for me. And then Cade, I got to take my shot on Cade. You just never know when he's going to nuke a slate. He's just way too good. And again, not too concerned defensively against the Lakers. I can for sure seeing it being a ceiling game for him tonight. And I don't think 10.5K is too crazy on a slate like this. And then I know you got some Duren exposure, but again, just sticking to my guns with the cheaper centers. He's another guy with great upside, but more so lately, he hasn't really been showing it much. So just kind of taking a stand there.
Yeah. No, I think we're seeing things pretty closely here. Not to lead the witness, so I'm just going to tell y'all what I'm doing with a lot of these studs. Cade, Maxey, Luka, I have a 20% min on all of them. Give me a small slate where those guys are in single-digit ownership. I can't not be double the field on those guys. Matchup for Cade and Luka, not the easiest, but again, matchup really doesn't matter for a lot of these guys. So there are guys I want to be over the field on. And then Jalen Duren, I have a 10% min on. For those of you who might be new to watching DFS Army content with me on it, I usually just kind of like map out and say, okay, how is the slate playing out? And then how can I get different? And for me, getting different is forcing in some of these bigs who have upside, but they're low owned and not in terrible matchups. So Duren's one way to do that, but he's not like the safest play. He's not the best value play or bang for your buck. He gets in the foul trouble a lot. He's just very inconsistent, but he has upside, which is what I care about, especially when they're low owned. Someone asked men of 1 or 2 Boston in all lineups. You shouldn't have to do that, OSID. It should happen by itself.
Yeah.
So no need to make a rule for it, but ideally you are seeing at least like 1 or 2 Boston guys in most of your lineups. It's LeBron's birthday? Really? There you go. Okay, we'll look at it. But that's pretty much it for me. I have a 20% min on Cade, 10% min on Duren, and then letting the DS do the rest of it. You're not wrong. Asar Thompson and Tobias Harris should be thought about if you're 150 maxing. I just can't stand those guys. So that's my bias. Once again, always clear, and I'm honest with y'all about my biases. I don't like them, especially when it comes to DFS. They're very inconsistent, and yeah, unless Cade's out, I don't go there. Asar is showing up in 1% of my lineups, so I guess that's worth mentioning. Ron Holland, I did have to cap. I put an exposure maximum on him at around 30% because he was showing up in 60% of my lineups, and I didn't like that. So that's part of why I have so much Gregory Jackson exposure too, because I capped some of these other value options. And then Javonte Green is showing up in 13% of my lineups. Don't love that, to be honest. But I'm not going to do anything to change it. He's just going to have to stay there. I guess. I don't know. I can't really think of a great reason for why he's showing up, but I'm okay with it. Next up, we have the Lakers side of this game. Lakers are pretty healthy. I mean, Austin Reeves and Rui are out, but the guys like Luka and LeBron and Ayton, those guys are still here. But with Reeves and Rui out, Reeves, of course, Doncic, LeBron, higher usage rates. Rui out means Jake LaRavia moves into the starting lineup. A bit of a boost for guys like Vanderbilt, and Kleba too. It doesn't move the needle too much, but still worth mentioning. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I didn't do anything here. I did consider Luca. If I was doing 150, I would force him in 10%, but just another stand I'm taking, which he's not chalky at all for a four gamer, but just that 12K price tag. Um, I don't know if I like the value enough. That would be surrounded in this kind of lineup, especially when we got a bunch of 9K studs that can match what he does tonight. He, of course, by far has the highest ceiling on the slate, but just based off of recent performance, I can get what he potentially will do in this spot for $3,000 cheaper. So, not forcing the issue there.
Very fair.
I'll probably throw a 5% min on LeBron too and 150, especially knowing it's his birthday, little birthday narrative. But another guy who hasn't really shown much upside at 9K. So going to avoid that as well. I think the only one I'm really getting exposure to, and I didn't do anything to do it, is Vanderbilt, and that's just because he's another value play who sees over 20 minutes, and at the forward position too, we have so many guards in play. He just kind of helps fill in lines at the forward position. So I'm at 10% there. Actually, I have some Laravia too at 5%. So don't feel strong about him either. The both of those guys are very volatile, but if they show up around this area, I'll roll with it.
Yeah. Detroit's typically not a team I like to focus on picking on too much. They are a pretty good defensive team, but I do have a 20% min on Luka for reasons I mentioned, but obviously something you don't have to do. He is the highest owned or the highest price stud. So it's definitely, if anyone else has a strong performance, almost instantly you didn't need Luka. I do have a 10% min on LeBron James. The birthday narrative only helps with that, but the price tag's okay. Performance hasn't been great, but he's just a way for me to get different in that 9K range. That's super focused around the Clippers right now. So I just liked it as a way to pivot. And then I have a 5% min on DeAndre Ayton. That's something I haven't done a lot of this season, but he's just another center that helps me get different from the chalk. But man, does he suck a little bit. Not my favorite by any means, but that's my game plan there. And then Jake LaRavia is showing up in 6% of my lineups. I didn't do anything to make that happen. And Nick Smith is showing up in about 1% of my lineups. Not really worth mentioning too much. And then Jared Vanderbilt is showing up in 25% of my lineups. And that's just because I limited some other value. 25 is a bit extra. He's definitely not my favorite value by any means. But let me look a little bit closer and make sure I'm okay with it. And I'm not going to cap it. Yeah, I'm okay with having a bit of leverage on Vanderbilt. It's just another.
Yeah, he's popping like crazy on the sim model.
Yeah, so that makes me feel a little bit better about it.
Um,
Again, go ahead.
the only other thing I was going to say about Nick Smith, I do think he's an okay punt play, just due to the reason JJ's been giving him more minutes. Last 3 games, he's been playing over 20 minutes. So, not a high usage guy or a points per minute guy whatsoever. But again, on a slate like this, somebody at this price tag who plays over 20 minutes, if you catch them at the right time, they could be deadly at 3% ownership. So
Yeah, it's kind of like most slates. There's not someone that's just like super standing out in the value range. So I'm okay just having a bit of a mixture here. All right, last game on the slate, we have the Kings going up against the Clippers. Lowest total, widest spread. First off, we'll start with the Kings, and I see you, OG. You are right. Revenge narrative for our guy, Russell Westbrook, but we are not getting a discount really at 8K. He used to play for the Clippers, for those of you who don't know. For Sacramento tonight, Zach LaVine is out, Sabonis is out, but those guys have been out for a minute now, so it's not really changing anything from like a value perspective. It looks like you like at least one of these Kings, right?
yeah, I only took one shot here. I don't really like this side of the ball much. They just really aren't that good, to be honest. But I did want some Reyno. He's just been in really great form, and he fits into kind of what I want to do at center and stick to the cheaper options. And love 9% ownership too. He kind of hovers in between 30 to 40 fantasy points and has kind of been dominating the minutes at the 5. So somebody with that potential, I definitely want on a small slate. As for everybody else, not getting there. Yeah, I don't see anybody else.
Yeah, this is an interesting game because the Kings are hot garbage, like you said. The tough part is the Clippers are not a good defensive team. They're below average everywhere when it comes to like rebounding, 3-point percentage, defensive rating in general. They just suck. They don't play defense. And I like having exposure to the latest game on the slate when it's low owned. And so because of that, I am forcing exposure to a couple of these guys. I have a 5% min on Russell Westbrook. The revenge narrative helps a little bit, but it's really just me wanting exposure to the last game. It's not really a great spot for him or anything like that. If he goes off, it's just because he decided to really go hard here. I have a 5% min on DeMar DeRozan. DeRozan's been a little bit better lately. He's shown a little bit of upside, which is something we haven't seen from him a lot so far this season. So I'll take a shot on him here. And then, is it Reynaud? Is that how you pronounce his name? Or
Yep. Yeah,
okay.
Reynaud.
Reynaud. Okay, cool. I have a 10% min on him. Like you said, just a low-owned center option who has shown upside too. So he's just someone I didn't want to forget about on this slate. Outside of that, I really couldn't find. Let me see. It looks like Drew Eubanks is showing up in about 5% of lineups, and I did put a 5% min on Nick Clifford. I think it was the sim model that had him popping a little bit. I could be wrong on that, but it was either that or like just a slightly increasing minutes here lately, and at his price tag, just another viable cheapie. I don't love his points per minute. Like, it's pretty bad, but I'll have some exposure there. And then Precious Achua is showing up in 1% of my lineups. Looks like he's getting some ownership, though, in general. Did you think about Precious at all?
Yeah, I don't hate that as a punt play either. I mean, if we're going to play some of these other value plays we mentioned, I don't see any issues going there. 4,200, and he definitely sees a lot of minutes. He's key piece in their rotation, so don't hate that at all. But just kind of one of my not my favorite compared to some of the other guys. And I will mention, if you want another, not really a punt play, but he is volatile. DeMar DeRozan, he has had a few 50-point games throughout the season. He just doesn't do it consistently. But at 7,100, if he can get like 40 plus, he can definitely be sneaky at 4%. So just wanted to throw that out there. I would maybe throw like a 5% min on him if I was doing 150.
I appreciate you for making me not seem or feel crazy, because it feels crazy saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Like 5% man on DeMar DeRozan, but it's like, yeah, it just kind of makes sense given the context of the slate and some of his upside he's shown. But it's far from safe. You shouldn't feel great about it. It's just one of those things. If you're MMEing, it just makes sense to do. All right, I need money. You know what? You're right. We could have just said they're the Clippers, and I think everyone would have understood. Next up, we have the Clippers going up against the Kings, and the Kings are just actually god-awful, so the matchup is fantastic for them here. From an injury news perspective, John Collins is questionable. That does matter. I think we would see Nicholas Batum start. He usually starts when Collins is out. Bogdan Bogdanovic is out, but that's been news that's already kind of been baked in here. Guys like Dunn, Batum, usually see a slight increase in minutes in that situation, but nothing too wild here. Who are you liking? It looks like you're really trusting the DS when it comes to the Clippers today.
Yeah, I didn't really have to do anything here because the top three guys here, Kawhi, Harden, and Lopez, I mean, they're all showing up quite a bit for me. First, I'll start with Kawhi. He's just playing at a different level right now, especially last game, putting up 90 fantasy points. He's playing way too good for me not to continue to go there. So I'm at 60% there. Harden, he kind of worries me because he hasn't been bad, but for 9,100, he's been floating like the mid 40s, and we definitely need to see more than that. So that's why I kind of mentioned Maxey earlier. He's Harden's at 40% ownership. If Maxey can have one of his 60-point games, then you're going to be sitting pretty if Harden puts up just another 40 whatever point game. But I do like him as well, just due to the softer spot for him. And then Lopez, I already touched on him earlier. He's playing a ton of minutes since Zubac went out. 5K might seem like a lot, but he's been very, very solid so far. So he, again, fits into my narrative of going cheaper at center. So I'm at, let's see, 30%, so over the field there. And that's pretty much it. One other guy I'll mention is Chris Dunn. If I was doing 150, I'll probably throw a 10% min on him. Not an appealing play at all. He kind of fits in the category of a lot of these value plays tonight, of where he plays a lot of minutes. He probably plays more than most of the other values on the plays on the slate. He plays on average probably 30 minutes, but been multiple games where he's seen over 30 minutes. So definitely don't hate a shot there with how much run he does get, but doesn't really show much upside there. So
yeah. I'll preface this by saying Kawhi Leonard is the best play on the slate. It's just right in front of your face. He's 9,500. He's been in great form. Fantastic matchup. There's not really a great reason to not play Kawhi Leonard. With that being said, though, I don't have a ton of Kawhi Leonard. It's really just because I want to get different. I'm prioritizing James Harden, who hasn't been in the best of form here lately. But Kawhi Leonard, historically, just is not a very consistent DFS player. And whenever there's an inconsistent, chalky player, I'm not going to force exposure to him. So I did put a 40% min on James Harden. It's just a way to get a little bit different, but he's also chalky. I'm really prioritizing getting different with some of those other studs in other spots, but wanted to make sure at least I had exposure to this game. And then I really wanted to take a shot on John Collins, but it's just too silly even for me.
yeah.
Brook Lopez, he does show up by himself, though. He is showing up for me in 25% of my lines. So that did fall from where he was showing up earlier. And that is because of just me forcing exposure to other bigs. But being right at field weight is ideal for me, how I'm treating this slate. Kawhi Leonard is showing up in, let's see here, 20% of lineups. So I'm about half the field there. So if he goes off, hopefully I'm lucky enough for one of those lineups to work out. Chris Dunn, I was close to putting that 10% min on, Brandon. I liked it too, but I just ended up prioritizing some other value a bit more, so I didn't do that. Really, the only thing when I'm looking at the DS is I have a 40% min on James Harden, and the rest of the cards are just going to land where they fall. Yeah, I think if you're making one lineup, Drew Shady, Kawhi Leonard is definitely someone you want to have in there.
For sure.
All right. And yeah, that seems to be, well, I know there was one more question I said we'd get back to. James said, who will be your highest owned players in each position? For me, it's Peyton Pritchard at point guard, Jaden Ivey at shooting guard, Jaylen Brown at small forward, Gregory Jackson at power forward. And then my center exposure is pretty flat. Like everyone's really close to each other, but it's going to be Nehemias Queta.
Yeah.
What about you, Brandon?
Mine's literally the same.
Boom. Kawhi's not your top small forward?
Or actually, let me double check. Sensabaugh is.
That makes sense. Awesome. Well, that's pretty much it. A nice 4-gamer, plenty of ways. Like I think it's a pretty straightforward slate for what you should do. Brandon, I know you mentioned that earlier. And there's also plenty of ways to get different too, which for me is like an ideal slate. Do you still like GG with handle back? Do you give that any thought, Brandon?
Yeah, we touched on GG. I think he's still a solid value play tonight, and I think we both had some exposure to him.
Yeah, like he's showing up a good amount. Now it was around 39%, so looks like about 6% lower than he was for me earlier, but still well over.
I'm at 30%, so I'll have quite a bit.
Drew Shady, you hope Joel Embiid's out? I don't know. I kind of hope he plays. I kind of want him to play, but it will make me force even more exposure to Philadelphia if he does get out. And like we mentioned, I'll force more exposure to the Memphis bigs like Aldama if he gets ruled out too. Londale, do you give Londale any thought, Brandon?
No, I like Lopez and Cato a bit more.
Jules, appreciate you, man. Looks like Keontae George is in. Man, everything in me just wants to like take the 40% min off of Harden and just make George a leverage play, but 15% is fine. I don't have to do that. But that's good. Appreciate that, Jules. Yeah, and we both like Keontae George. It just means we don't have to think about the Jazz too much more because that was just like guys like Collier, I'm just not going to have a ton of exposure to, but he's still a viable, very viable like value play. You kind of see it that way too, Brandon, or does it change too much?
Yeah, for sure. Still viable. Of course, not as strong if Keontae would have been out, but I'm okay still getting exposure there.
Yeah, and I'm still going to keep the cap on Bryce with that news too. So, y'all, that's the slate. Appreciate y'all. We will be here tomorrow. I'll be honest, Thursday's a bit of a question mark for me because I'm going to try to go to DC tomorrow night and then make it back in time for this show. We'll see how that goes. But we'll see you tomorrow. Good luck and wish you all nothing but the best. Peace out.